ends. We have one more day, and I'm excited for 2018 to be done. Not because 2018 was bad, 2018 was the best. And there have been so many amazing things that happened this year. But I'm excited for 2018 to be done because 2019 starts, right? Not tomorrow, but the next day, which is Tuesday. 2019 starts. So I'm excited for 2019 because I believe that 2019 is going to be so much better than 2018. I fully believe with everything in me that the best is still yet to come. There really is. That us personally, that you personally, that us as a church, that we are on the verge of something incredible. 2018 is going to be really, really good. I'm excited for it. This is always an interesting Sunday for me, this one specifically. As a preacher, if I can be very transparent with you, this Sunday, today, is a very interesting, odd Sunday for me because it falls between two events. It falls between Christmas and New Year's. And there's always this Sunday that sits in between these two events. For Christmas, you have an entire month where, again, as a preacher, the story is just given to you. Right? We can come in here on Sundays and every week and I turn in your Bibles to Luke chapter 2, right? Because Luke chapter 2, it's a Christmas story. And the Christmas story is just handed to you. The Christmas story doesn't change. And we get to preach the Christmas story all month long, every single year. And the story doesn't change. The characters don't change. The people in it, the things none of it changes. We just get new ways to tell it and find new avenues to bring life change through the Christmas story. The Christmas story doesn't change. And each year we're given this message that's easy. Christmas story is easy. I can tell you right now, Christmas was 5 days ago? I know what I'm going to preach about next year. It's just what it is. The only other comparable time is Easter. Easter is the only comparable Sunday to what Christmas does. We literally left Christmas Eve service Monday night and started talking about Easter. I love Easter. And it's a comparable message because the story, again, it doesn't change. I know what I'm going to preach about on Easter. It doesn't change. And don't get me wrong, I love Easter. It is literally my favorite Sunday of the year. But Christmas is a given. Easter is a given. Right? Mother's Day is a given. Here's what I'm going to talk about on Mother's Day. Moms. Okay, there are some givens each year. The first week of January, it's a given. You know what's not a given? The week between Christmas and New Year's. There is this space between where it's like just a wide open door because you can't talk about Christmas anymore. But we're not in January. It's not 2019 yet. We start a brand new series next week that I'm excited about. We're going to kick off the new year with this new series. But this week is the most vague Sunday of the year for me. Okay, I'm being transparent with you. Is that okay? Can I do that? As a result, I've decided to title our last message of 2018, The Space Between. Because there is a space between two events and it's very, very vague. And I think that there has to be an understanding of what the space between looks like. If you have a Bible, you can flip them open to Genesis chapter 41. Genesis chapter 41. If you don't have a Bible, it's on your notes in your program. Of course, it'll be on the screens behind me. But before we get into Genesis chapter 41, let me back it up to chapter 37. In chapter 37, we run across this guy called Joseph. Joseph was a dreamer, and in Genesis chapter 37, Joseph has these dreams. And one of them is about how he's going to lead this entire nation of people. Huge aspirations, right? Big aspirations to think you go to sleep one night and you wake up and say, okay, one day I'm going to lead an entire nation. Huge aspirations. I wish my dreams looked more like that. My dreams usually have things like purple snowman driving go-karts, with their ex-landlord. That's what my dreams look like. Weird dreams. I wish that my dreams were filled with aspirations of leading entire nations of people. Fortunately, there are far better people to lead nations than I. But Joseph's a dreamer, and he's got this dream. He had this dream that God would give him. Joseph dreamed that he would be the ruler over this entire nation, and part of this dream is that his family would bow down to him, this entire family. And the dream was specific, including his family in the bowing down process to Joseph, that all of his brothers would bow down to him at some point in life. Rightfully so, Joseph's brothers don't take, they don't take kindly to these aspirations that Joseph has. Hey, one day, older brothers, you're going to bow down to me. And his brothers didn't like it. They weren't super into it, but God gave Joseph this dream, and as a result of his brothers not being into it, Joseph is going to be required to walk through this process of life before he can get to the dream, before the dream comes to fruition. Before we get to that part of the story, let me sum up chapter 37, 38, 39, and 40. Because from what I understand, that would exceed my time limit today. And I know y'all got to leave, right? Do you care if I read all 5 chapters? Thank you. You're like, oh, he's silly. No, don't read it. Let me sum it up for you. So Joseph's brothers don't like this mindset that Joseph has. So they take his coat. Maybe you know the story. They take his coat and they put animal blood on it. And they take it back to the dad and they say, Dad, Joseph is dead. An animal clearly killed him. He's dead. He's gone. He's never coming back. The good thing is that Joseph was, in fact, not dead, right? He was sold into slavery. And while a slave, he's bought by this man called Potiphar. And Potiphar was a good man, with the exception, of course, of being a slave owner. Potiphar buys Joseph, and Joseph works for this guy called Potiphar. And while in his house as a slave, God's anointing was so much on Joseph that everything Joseph touched turned to gold. He was a slave, but he was a really, really good one. And he eventually became head of the slaves in Potiphar's house and under his employment. And it was good for him. And he was raised up to head slave. And one day while in this house, Potiphar's house, everybody was gone. He was home alone except for Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife comes on to Joseph, right? She wants to get with Joseph, like in the biblical way. We'll keep it PG today. And she wants to get dirty with Joseph, right? So reel it back in. So Potiphar's wife accuses Joseph. Joseph, being an upright person, takes off running. And he runs away, but Potiphar's wife has accused him of this, and he eventually lands himself in jail. This is your summary of 4 chapters, okay? Listen good. Lands himself in jail. In jail, he meets the right people. One of those right people ended up being Pharaoh's butler. His chief of staff in his house. And Joseph meets this butler, and as the butler's getting out of prison, he looks at Joseph and he says, hey, I'm going to remember you. I'm going to remember you at some point in life. 2 years later, 2 years after the butler leaves and says, Joseph, I'm going to remember you, 2 years later, Pharaoh has a dream. And the butler says, hey, I know a guy. Because Joseph had interpreted a dream for the butler, so he kind of caught this guy's eye. So Pharaoh has a dream, and he says, hey, I know this guy is called Joseph. He's in prison. Let's get him out. So Pharaoh calls Joseph up, and Pharaoh begins to describe his dream to Joseph, and Joseph interprets it, and Pharaoh loves it. Now we're caught up to speed. Go to Genesis chapter 41. It says this in verse 37. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials, what was laid out to him via this dream. So Pharaoh asked him, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Dream coming full circle. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put gold chains around his neck. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, make way. Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. So we started off by hearing this dream that Joseph has, right? But over the course of a few chapters, there are all these hurdles that Joseph has to clear before we get to the result of the dream in chapter 41, before this dream comes to fruition. I want to give you a few simple thoughts this morning from the place of the space between. Just a few simple thoughts of this space between a start and finish. I'm not typically a fan of the process. I don't like process. I would venture to say that most people don't like process. We want the end result. But when it comes to me, I feel like maybe I take the cake. Like I'm at the top of the list of haters of process. I want to skip through and get to the beginning. It's just what I want. I want the end result in everything I do. I want things to happen, right? I think that we all want that. A little bit about me. Maybe you don't know me that well. I'm a little crazy in my head. Little bit by a lot, I mean. And there's this crazy bag of mess going on in my head. I overanalyze everything. It's what I do. I'm constantly in my head. I'm constantly thinking on things, right? Like I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm thinking, man, do they like me? You know what I mean? No, I'm not thinking that at all. I don't care. No, I'm just joking. I'm constantly thinking about things, right? I'm an overanalyzer. It's what I do. I think on things. So when I have to sit and process, all it does is provide me an opportunity to sit and stress on things. You know, before the end result comes, you sit and you think on things and you wait on things, and it drives me absolutely crazy. It's one of my biggest weaknesses. It's one of my greatest weaknesses. It drives me crazy that I drive myself crazy. Couple months ago, we ended up going to this Mexican restaurant for dinner, Shayna and I. I won't tell you which Mexican restaurant because maybe you own it. I don't know. But we went to this Mexican restaurant, and it was taking absolutely forever, right? It took so long to get this food, which drives us crazy, right? We want to get to the end. I fully believe that we're in the middle of this microwave generation where we want things now, right? We don't like the process. I don't like the process, but I can almost guarantee you don't either. We want things now, and probably more than ever, we want to skip this process, right? Think about traffic, right? Think about drive-throughs. Yesterday, I went to Portland, and this is just a side note. I go to Portland yesterday, and I'm driving down I-5, and I needed gas and lunch, and so I pull off in Woodland, and I stop at this drive-through, and I pull in, and I won't tell you which drive-through, because maybe you own it, and I pull in this drive-thru, and I'm like, yeah, can I get some fries? Like, I just ordered fries at this drive-thru. And the guy in the intercom says to me, it's going to be probably between 1 and 2 minutes. Is that okay? And I was like, yes. I think I can control myself for the next 60 seconds of my life before you hand me food. It's a very weird thing, right? Most places just take forever, and they don't care about your time. God bless him. He was concerned for my time, but we don't want to wait on things, right? So a couple months ago, we go to this Mexican restaurant here in town, and we're getting dinner, and we were going to go to a movie afterwards. I think the movie started at like 7:15. So we show up at 6, and again, a little bit about me. I don't like being late ever. Like I am punctual to a T. If we're ever hanging out and I'm late, you can expect me to show up angry. Like, that's what happens. I get very anxious when I'm late. I get angry. It gets in my head. It's my second greatest weakness. I'm going to share my third one next week. But so we go to this Mexican restaurant, and we've got this movie to get to, and I don't like being late, and the food is taking forever to come. And we're waiting, and finally we get to this place where we're like, okay, we're going to give it 45 minutes from when we ordered. If it takes longer than 45 minutes, we're gone. Right? I mean, we're angry, right? Shayna more than me. I'm cool and calm and collected. Shayna's super angry. And I'm just joking. It was all me. At this point, though, we're like 6 baskets deep on chips and salsa. So dinner was a formality at that point. But we say 45 minutes, and we're there. Of course, the food comes at literally 44 minutes, right? I was irate because I still had to pay, but I was very full. We don't like waiting on things. There is this element of life that we want to get things done now, and when things don't get now, we freak out. We stress about things. We have anxiety about things, and we don't want to wait on what's to come, even if we know what's to come is really good. Even if we know what's to come will benefit us, will be better for us. The process is life-ruining for us, or so we think. So we think the process is life ruining, and frequently we want to fast forward and we want the fulfillment of the dream now, but the fulfillment of the dream was not meant to be fulfilled now, right? There is an end result and it's coming, but it's not supposed to happen right now. As a freshman, we don't want to wait 4 years to graduate. You know, as a food consumer, we don't want to wait 60 seconds to a minute, 20 seconds, or 120 seconds, whatever that is, to get our food. Like, we don't want to wait for a waiter to bring our food. You know, as patients, we don't want to wait for healing. As employees, we don't want to wait for promotions. We want to get to the end result. I know the dreams that I have, the visions that I have, the goals and the hopes that I have for 2019. And it drives me absolutely crazy that I have to wait until December of next year to see them all unfold. A little bit about that. So we're in the process of figuring out our second service, of launching a second service here at the church. It's exciting. I mean, we could not be more excited to launch a second service. And some of you might not be into that, but it is what it is. And I'll tell you why here in a second. But we're in the process of launching the second service. And it's exciting, but at the same time, we know the end result will be good. We know that it's needed, that it will benefit us. But the stress and the anxiety and the thought process and the planning of it is driving me crazy. I know the end result will be good, but the process of figuring out this second service is driving us nuts. And we're going to this second service. Here's what I ask of you. I ask that you would pray with us, right? That you would bear with us, because there are some Sundays that we come in here and there are no seats. Maybe you've walked in 5 minutes late. Hey, that's on you, essentially. You come. We're not having a second service. You need to show up earlier. I'll tell you what's so funny, right? You come in at 5 after and there's no seats. And you come in at 10 till. There are like 4 people in the room. You can literally have any seat if you show up 5 minutes early. Bear with us because we're in this process of figuring out how to get to this really good end result. Pull up a chair. We'll always find chairs for you. Maybe there's not any sitting out at the time. We'll find a chair. You can come sit by me. I don't care. Pull up a stool. But pray with us through this. Pray with us through the process, right? Because the process is going to get us to something really, really incredible. But the space between feels like this eternity. And it goes with that. It goes with things that we're going through. It goes through, in our job when we're waiting for promotions or when we're waiting for this process can feel like an eternity. The story of Joseph is the completed story of the space between. We see the beginning, we see this space between, and then we see the end. We see the completed part of the story. Here's why. Joseph had this dream that one day he would lead an entire nation, and he had this dream when he was 17 years old. That dream didn't come to fruition until he was 30. 13 years Joseph hung out in the space between. 13 years Joseph hung out in this period of time of indecision and maybe he had times where he wasn't necessarily confident in what was going to happen. 13 years he would spend in the process stage of life. And I'm sure that Joseph probably wishes that wilderness period of time for his life would have been shorter, but there are things in that 13 years that Joseph needed to learn. Things that had to happen, and if they didn't happen, he would not have gotten to where he got. The end result would have been very, very different for him. And here's the thing, I believe that we all have these dreams. I guarantee that you have dreams for your life. I guarantee you have visions and hopes and goals for your life, some things that you're holding on to tightly. God has placed a very unique will and promise for your life. And maybe you already know where God is leading you. Maybe God has led you to things before, and as a result of God leading you to things before, you know that good things are coming. And maybe you're not at that spot, and you're trying to figure out where God is leading you. Maybe there's a dream, and you're sitting in this space that you have no idea what's on the other end of it. You don't know the hurdles you're going to have to cover. You don't know the hurdles you're going to have to cross. Maybe you're at an intersection with your family, trying to figure out where your family should go. Maybe you're at this intersection in your career, and you're trying to figure out what's next for your life. God's given you a will and a dream, in a vision, and right now, you very well could be sitting in this space between. And some of your processes are easier than others, but the process can oftentimes look like these places where we're stuck, that maybe God's not moving, and God's not speaking to us, that maybe these hurdles are too big for us to cover, that they're too big for us to cross, they're too big for us to get in front of, and it feels like there was a dream, but now we're stuck in something. Whatever your dream might be, we always find ourselves in the space between the beginning and the end. I told you at the beginning, I have 3 thoughts for you this morning. You can jot these down in your notes or on a piece of paper or on your arm or your spouse's arm. Write these thoughts down, okay? I've got 3 of them for you. The first one is this. Some things that we need to learn in the process. The favor of God matters. The favor of God matters. It matters in your life. It matters in your life. It matters in my life. It matters in your family's life. In Genesis chapter 39, Joseph is sold into slavery and he's bought by a man named Potiphar. He's working for this guy, and of course he gets promoted, and he becomes the head of Potiphar's whole operation. That's Joseph as a slave. In chapter 39 and verse 2, it says, the Lord was with Joseph, so he prospered. Later in verse 21, we find Joseph in prison, and the same thing is happening to him. He was wrongly accused by Potiphar's wife, so he lands in prison, and yet God's hand is still on him. It says this. It says the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. At some point in Joseph's stay at this prison, the warden says, hey, I know you're a criminal, but here are the keys to the prison, right? It's a very weird thing. No warden has ever said that, except in this instance. Even while in prison, Joseph is being promoted. God's favor is on Joseph's life. Joseph may not have felt like it, but God's favor was there. And you think, man, why didn't God just take him out of prison? Well, things had to line up because this dream was coming, and things have to line up to get to the dream. The favor of God matters. The favor of God matters when you're stuck because his will and his capability will always supersede our situations, right? His will and his capability will always outgrow and outdo and outbest our situations. If you're with God, God is with you. And if God is with you, then God's favor surrounds you, right? If God has favor for us, here's what Paul says in Romans chapter 8. He says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. A couple of verses later, he says, what then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? If God is for us, who can be against us? So I want to see God's will and God's plan fulfilled in your life. I want to see the favor of God take place in your life. I want to see the favor of God take hold in your life. The favor of God can make your resume stand out from other people. The favor of God can allow the things you've been doing around the house to stand out. There's a spotlight on the things that you've been doing. The favor of God can ease tension in school. The favor of God can ease tension in work. It can cause the time that you spend with your kids to be valued more. The favor of God matters. It matters in every single thing that we're doing. The favor of God can allow our bosses to look differently at us. Maybe the boss recognizes you now. He sees something that you're doing. That's the favor of God. But I think that we have to consider what Paul says in verse 28. He says, and we know that all things, that God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. God works for who? For those that love him. God is at work. God is at work in the people who love him. What does your love look like? Because, man, for me, I want to test him on that. I want to love God so hard that his hand of action is constantly working favor in my life. God works for the good of those who love him. So I'm going to love him with everything I have because God's favor is so much better than anything I could ever do. If God is for us, then who in the world can stand against us? Here's your second thought this morning. Integrity matters. Integrity matters. If favor opens the door of opportunity, integrity keeps the door open. The Bible says that whatever's placed in Joseph's hand prospered. God caused it to prosper. Everything Joseph touched turned to gold. And remember, at this time, the dream hasn't been fulfilled yet. The dream has not come full circle. He was a slave, and whatever was put in his hand turned to gold. One day he'll have a crown, but today he's got a broom. And yet God is continuing to bless him. He's swept, but he's swept as a man with integrity. And we see it when Potiphar's wife comes into play. So the question is, what's in your hand, and how are you going to handle it? We might not have a crown in our hand yet. We might have a broom in our hand. How are we going to handle the broom that's in our hand? Because maybe God put that broom in your hand. Maybe God put you in the position that you're in right now to see how you'll handle the position that you're in right now. And integrity matters. Integrity matters. Maybe you're not serving anywhere. Maybe you're not doing anything for the kingdom. I believe that if we're not doing anything for the kingdom, all we're doing is robbing God of an opportunity to do something in our life. Have you ever had somebody pay for something for you and you feel so bad about it? Oh, you didn't have to do that, you didn't have to do that. And they say, man, stop trying to rob my blessing. I believe that when we're not serving the kingdom, when we're not doing things for God, on behalf of God, in light of God, we're robbing God of an opportunity to do something powerful in us and through us. Integrity matters. The way you live your life matters. The dictionary calls it moral uprightness. Moral uprightness. Uprightness to our very core. Integrity is who we are. It's not something that we do. It's not something that we put on at certain times. Integrity is moral uprightness. At our very core, we do what's right. We look at the life of Joseph, and he's got this dream, and I would venture to say that there were times in Joseph's life where maybe he felt like he misread the dream. I don't know what your dreams look like. I know what my dreams look like. They look like a very, very weird kid's picture book. Joseph has this massive dream. And at some point in his life, he had to say, man, did I interpret that dream wrong? Because right now I'm a slave. My family thinks I'm dead. You know, he quits being a slave and he becomes a prisoner. Maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe I had this wild dream where my brothers are bowing down just because I was mad at them. Maybe he misread the dream. But for Joseph, the reality is there very well could have been some spots where he slips up, where he gave up, where he allows Potiphar's wife to do Potiphar's wife's thing. She wanted to get with him. He could have gotten with her. It maybe would have even brought favor for him. It could have earned, extra credit around the house had he given in. All it would have cost him is his integrity. Joseph could have burned with rage and bitterness and unforgiveness at his brothers and what they did. Joseph could have given up and thrown in the towel while in prison, and the only thing that was at stake would be his integrity. But he didn't, because integrity matters. Here's your third thing. You still with me? Go with me? Here's your third thought. Perspective matters. Perspective matters. The way that we view the space between matters. You know how you should view the process part of life? We need to view the process part of life as a necessity, because the process breeds transformation. We will not get the transformation unless we go through the process. And we don't always like the process, but we need the process. And we don't always see that we're in the middle of the process, but soon we will. We don't always see the necessity, but soon we will. Let me go back to my restaurant scenario for a second. This is the most basic and simple illustration that I could think of. Okay, we sit down at a restaurant, and because we don't want to give the kitchen or the waiters or the restaurant the time that the restaurant needs, they bring us out this big plate of raw ground beef, a head of lettuce, a big ball of dough, maybe a bag of sesame seeds if for one of the fancy places. I'm building a burger if you don't pick that up. They bring us this burger, and the burger lacks preparation. The burger lacks the process. Without the process, the end result is very faulty. I don't want the end result unless it goes through the process. I don't want a burger if they don't cook the burger, right? I don't want them to bring me the food. I don't want the end result. When you're being shaped, it's hard to see it. How many times have we walked into a restaurant and gotten angry because of the time that it's taking to bring out the food? We need them to go through that time. So it crafts the end result. So how do we keep our perspective? The first thing is we keep a soft heart. We keep a soft heart. We continue to stay in this mentality that will allow us to be molded. The second thing is that we learn to forgive. See, this entire story starts off with Joseph being wronged by his family. Joseph's wronged by his brothers. They hurt him. Joseph never would have been at this elevated position with Potiphar. He never would have been in prison. He never would have been a slave. He never would have sat at the king's table. He never would have had Pharaoh's good nature or goodwill. He never would have caught his eye had he not gone through this stuff. And yet we never see these like fits of rage or jealousy or anger. We never see Joseph grumbling. And we didn't read them, but go back and read them. We never see these angry Facebook posts. Because for the most part, our problems with our emotions and the things happening in life around us, most of them come as a result of other people. And other people's selfishness and other people's personal desires and what they want to see done. And we get hurt in the meantime. We get hurt by other people. And a lot of times what happens is that hurt sits out in front of us so long that it begins to skew our perspective. And we no longer view the space between as something that we need. We view it as something that someone forced on us. Joseph could have sat alone in Potiphar's house angry because his brothers did this and they forced this on him. And I'm sure that there were probably moments of weakness where Joseph thought that. But I bet more so that Joseph had a perspective that said, maybe God is doing something. Maybe I can recognize the thing that God is doing. Man, I was elevated to run this show. Maybe God is doing something. Well, now I'm in prison, and my brothers forced this on me. Now I'm running the prison. Maybe God is doing something. Maybe God is doing something. I met the butler, and maybe God is doing something. We have to begin to understand that the process is a necessity for our transformation. View the process as the goal that God is allowing you to have. Because the goal that God is allowing you to have now will later define the dream that he's given you. It'll get you to your end result. Come on, let me pray for you this morning.